I'm going to throw a number at you. 400. That's the number of clears of Forked Tower. Not players, 400 clears. If that number seems small to you, then it might make sense as to why. On the Letter from the Producer Live Part 1 for patch 7.3 of Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, they addressed player feedback for the Occult Crescent and Cosmic Exploration. And then they announced the content that we would get in 7.3. We have a lot to talk about. Hello everyone, I am Jmulls. And while the live letter may have been in Japanese, fear not. For Miyuna and Iluna Minori over the Final Fantasy XIV Reddit Discord have provided translations for us all to peruse, and I'll leave a link in the description down below for that Discord if you wish to go read it for yourself or just hang out. But let's go over the points they have talked about, the feedback they have received, and their response to it. We have a lot, and let's get into it right now. So, starting off, when is patch 7.3? Early August. We'll probably get a specific release date at a later time, probably the second live letter. Now, for the meat and potatoes, Forked Tower, the big raid for the Occult Crescent. Only 400 total clears. Goal. So what are they doing in patch 7.3? According to the translation, I'm going to be saying that a lot in this video, Yoshi P said, we will implement a feature in patch 7.3 that allows for a pre-made alliance of 48 players to queue into the same instance at once. Because of how fast we're trying to do this, please don't have expectations too high for the UI. Putting in multiple ciphers is increasing your chances to enter the tower, but it isn't possible to see who handed in how many ciphers. We're working on a list for you that will show this in the future. We will require one cipher in the future to have a player indicate, I want to enter the tower in Prague. Seemed like a rather simple solution, just allow premates to go into the Forked Tower. Especially with how rare they can be and how difficult this content supposedly is. Just doing with a bunch of randoms doesn't particularly sound appealing. And I think that's reflected in the low clear count for the Forked Tower. But a question you may have is, well, why didn't they just make a normal version? And well, they addressed that, and you may not like it. Yoshi P said, the simple answer why we didn't have a normal and savage version is cost. I know this doesn't matter for a customer. We weren't able to do this for this instance, but for the future instances of OC, we will try to have both a normal and savage version. We had every coffer give Gil as a reward as well, and our understanding of how rewarding that feels has been off. I would simply posit a question. If the reason that the Forked Tower didn't have a normal and a savage version is because of cost, what changed going into the next one? I think they're being a bit clever by using overall cost as a bit of an umbrella term. Setting aside for a moment the fact that for a game that you have to pay per expansion, then also pay for a subscription that also has an online store, no one really particularly wants to hear that the reason content isn't good is because of cost. Putting that aside for a second, I think the bigger problem isn't necessarily the cost of doing it. They just either didn't have the time to do it, or it wasn't viewed to be that high of a priority, as opposed to just having the hard version that we ended up getting. It makes a lot of sense to me if the internal math is going in a different direction now, because of just how low the clear count for Forked Tower is. I highly doubt they view it as a good idea to design content that is the capstone main raid for an entire new zone you're adding to the game, and then barely anyone actually beats it. Next up, they address the following complaint. When Magic Pod and Happy Bunny coffers contain only materia and fireworks, the rewards feel inadequate for the effort required. Yoshi P replied, again according to the translation, we do feel we have missed the mark on the rewards and we're discussing how to change this. Maybe we have given rewards from coffers that have been too good in the past. I would argue no. That is not the lesson to glean from the situation. I have done quite a few of these magic pot fates, and I've gotten pretty much nothing else outside of materia and like maybe a minion. They just don't feel good or accomplishing to well accomplish. And making the rewards worse and justifying it by saying, hey, they were kind of too good in the past, yeah, that ain't gonna fly. That's not gonna make the content itself better, or feel more rewarding or engaging. It's a time-old problem when it comes to MMO design. What do you give outside of just a minion, a mount, or new glamour? That can only go so far until it starts to feel kind of samey. But when you do Magic Pot fate after magic pot fate and you're only really getting fireworks and some materia, you're going to start to no longer particularly care about that content because you don't view it to be valuable compared to doing anything else in the zone. Unless there's a really good reward from it, but the content itself still should be fun. And like going on that little treasure hunt is fine, don't get me wrong, but what I'm trying to say is, the lesson to glean from this situation isn't that rewards were too good in the past. Find a way to make these fates feel better and more rewarding through other means. Don't just try to normalize them feeling crap. Next up, we have one that I've been yapping on about for a while at this point, the fates. Enemies and fates can be defeated too quickly. Unless you're paying close attention, a fate may be completed before you've even arrived. Yoshi P replies, this isn't limited to this instance, but it is difficult to adjust parameters to when an instance is crowded and when it is nearly empty. I do feel like it's better to have these parameters set in a way that mobs feel easier than for the parameters to make the fights take longer, even when you have a large group of players. We will try to push these to the limits. Not particularly clear as to what their intended solution to this problem is. However, while I agree that fates do die too quickly, I also am of a similar opinion as to Yoshi P here. If you have a bunch of people that should make the fight easier, you should feel that power, especially when you're in a zone that is trying to reinforce the feeling of being in an MMORPG. It's just the fates die way too quickly when you get a certain number of people. So finding some way, maybe with scaling, finding some way to make it so that when you have a bunch of people, you still feel the benefits of grouping up with other people and having a lot of people, but it's not like a complete wash where the fight no longer freaking matters. Next up, we have the juicy one. This one's about to be funny. You're gonna want to sit back for this one. We're talking Demi Atma. You'll know, if you've been around the channel recently, I've had my own opinions about the Demi Atma farm. TLDR, it's boring. The question they're addressing is rather straightforward. Please increase the drop rate for Demi Atma and Soul Shards. And you know what? Let's just rip the band-aid off and read Yoshi P's response. I do think this is just personal RNG. We're not buffing the drop rates for now. To give you some numbers, CE drop rate is 20%, Fate drop rate is 5%. You might think if you do 5 CEs you get 1, but it's 20% each time, explaining how probability works. Just as a side info, a Realm Reborn Atmas at the beginning had a 2% drop rate. We increased the drop rate in 2.4 and have been improving the drop rate since. Now they are 20%. We obviously want to keep random drops as a feature in the game. We did want players to collect all drops once, and we will not increase early drop rates as of now. Okay, let's get into this. Needless to say, my solution is the solution I've been talking about for a while now. Simply have some kind of pity system, so any excess Atma that you have, the Demi Atma, you can just turn in for the ones you specifically want at some kind of rate, whether that be 1 for 1, or 2 for 1, or 3 for 1, just something. Because the fallback solution being to go do fates in regular Dawn Trail is boring as sin. Even if it's efficient, even if it's kind of quick in the grand scheme of things, it's boring as sin. If you're adding content, if you're adding a grind into the game, in my opinion, it should be fun and interesting. Not just a meaningless slog that you either do in the background and you don't pay attention to it, or is just boring by itself. I don't think this system needs a complete overhaul or even adjustments in terms of the RNG to acquire these things. Just have a pity system. You can allow doing Dawn Trail Fates as a fallback option, just also have a pity system. It seems like a simple fix to me. Or heck, even allow players to buy them with silver or something, just as some kind of guaranteed fallback option that you don't have to do, it's just there as a safety net. It's not like the grind takes that long anyways. If the goal of it was to make a long-term grind, it kind of failed at that. You can bang it out rather quickly, like it's not that bad, especially if you just go do fates out in Dawn Trail. It'll take a few hours, sure, and that's still really boring to do. But if the goal was to be a really long-term grind, it doesn't even really achieve that. And then once it's done, you're just back to tombstone farming again. It feels like this situation is so unnecessary, because if you just had a couple of safety nets, it would fix every problem. Allow you to turn in excess Demi Atma for the specific ones you need at a rate, and then when you're done with the Demi Atma step, you can either use tombstones or farm more Demi Atma. It sounds so simple and obvious to me. And it's like, yeah, the game needs RNG. I don't mind that Demi Atma is RNG. And it's fine to have this side grind that you can do while you're interfacing with the main content. All that is fine. It's just obvious fixes to blatant problems. I don't understand how they don't take that final step. Next up, the next point they're addressing, the window for Aurora Mirages is too short. Make it impossible to get there in time if you were in critical encounter. And they're changing the weather system with the following. We're changing the system around the weather condition Aurora Mirage. The weather condition will not spawn until the environment allows it, meaning no active CEs. This only pushes the weather condition back and doesn't reduce the amount of it spawning. Sounds like a good solution to me. We've also been informed of cast translation errors in the French and German client. We will be fixing this during the next hotfix maintenance that we announced earlier. We had similar instances of cast translations affecting the difficulty of a mechanic. Omega raids in Japanese, it was just left or right, but in English, it became a lot more difficult. Like, who remembers Starboard and Larboard? And you know what? Up to this point, I didn't know that it was just left and right in Japanese. That's really funny. Okay, next up we have the Cosmic Exploration situation. I think a lot of these are pretty good, so I'm gonna bang through them real quick. Watch this. Okay, so you'll be able to use mounts in Cosmic Exploration in 7.3 and at the start of the new zone in 7.31. They'll also be adjusting the time of some of the missions, and alongside that, in reference to the point that the mission report window should open automatically, they said this will change in the future. You'll get back GP that you used, and also your cast time is for... You know what? I'm realizing I never said codials out loud. Codials? Codials? Let's mix it up. Well, those will reset upon completion of a Gatherer mission. So not only will you get your GP back that you used in that mission, you'll also be able to use another code dial right afterwards because the cast timer will just come off cooldown. According to Yoshi P, sequential missions have been difficult to see just in the chat window. We will improve this. We're looking at the data per project, and we'll keep monitoring this. We're working on a system that allows for a sort of a follow-up to a failed project. Next up, I'm in two minds about this one. The point raised was, please keep the relative positioning of shops and NPCs constant as the base develops, and Yoshi P replied, we put too much emphasis on the looks of how a developed base would look. For the future releases, we're reworking the level designs. For the next exploration, holograms will be installed from the beginning. There's a part of me that doesn't want the designs to be limited by having to have the NPCs in the exact same position, but like, yeah, that would probably just get annoying. Here's a big one. Please add more incentives to continue playing once we finish cosmetic tool enhancement and gotten the current rewards. Yoshi P replies, looking at player data, it is clear that incentives to keep playing after you finished your tool and got the rewards are lacking. We will improve this for future releases. Sounds cool to me. And then they'll also be adding retainer bells. Cool. And finally, there'll be some kind of teleport ticket to get to Driving Way so you can get to Cosmic Exploration easier. Sounds good to me. Across the board, I quite like the Cosmic Exploration changes. But like I talked about in yesterday's video, yeah, I couldn't imagine them really changing Southhorn in a way to address all the feedback that I at least personally had, or that a lot of people personally had, and that a lot of that feedback would be taken into account when we get to the next zone, or when we get new Phantom jobs at some point down the line in 7.4x. Maybe the changes to Fork Tower will help salvage that content for a lot of people. It is kind of funny that Yoshi P's reply in response to Demi Atma was just, get over it, little bro. That got a chuckle out of me. But hey, it is what it is. Now, the content coming into the game with 7.3 is largely by the numbers and what you expect out of this patch. So let's shotgun through this. We have new main story quest, which is the finale for Dawntrail's story. Praise be Morse Fiend thumbnails, let's go! We have a new Crafter Allied Society quest chain, the Yakoi. It takes place in this cool snowy zone with some kind of robot golem thing. I'm kind of intrigued. The Hildebrand quest will take us to Shaloni. I'm ready for some cowboy adventures with Hildebrand. I'm so ready for that. The new dungeon is the Meso Terminal, which looks absolutely gorgeous. We were theorizing in my stream when we were reacting to the live letter, and I agree with the idea this is probably a walk down memory lane or just something about Calyx specifically. Looks really cool though. We also have a new trial, but they didn't really talk about it much. They did show a picture of the statue in living memory. I'm of the opinion the big fight will be Calyx merging with that thing and becoming the fight. We'll have to wait and see though. We're getting the second part of the Echoes of Vana'diel Alliance Raids, Part 2, San Doria, The Second Walk. This place looks absolutely gorgeous. Visually, Echoes of Vanadil has been absolutely immaculate. I prefer the visuals there than in the base game right now. That zone design looks absolutely crispy great, and it's making me want a zone in this game that is a snowy environment with a giant aurora above it. It looks so good. We're getting a new treasure dungeon, Vault. This is almost certainly not how you pronunciate this, but 1 iron. And we're getting new minigames alongside it with a new duty support for Cutter's Cry. We're getting some PvP changes, new Crystalline Conflict Arena, and also some new ranks. By the way, you can also now duo queue in casual. When it comes to Cosmic Exploration, don't forget this gets updated every patch. We're getting a new planet, the Star of Glass, Thena, which has this cool bioluminescent, like, bungle aesthetic. It looks really cool. I like it. We're getting a new relic step, oh god, and considering the fact the Warrior of Light looks like he's in physical pain, this is bound to be special. In before we get the A Realm Reborn books again. And the big piece of content for this patch is the new Deep Dungeon, Pilgrim's Traverse. We've gone up before and we certainly have gone down, but now we're going side to side. So Pilgrim's Traverse, you can actually level in here, but it's from level 91 plus. You have to have done the main story quest and walk it, also do a bit of Palace of the Dead to be able to unlock this. And there's also a new feature here that will be expanded on in the second live letter, a bonus duty after completing it. A harder version of the floor 99 boss battle will be accessible from the dungeon entrance NPC that can be challenged at level 100 with a party of 4. Speaking of hard, no ultimate at 7.3. Okay, moving on. We are finally getting chat bubbles. Preach Gaming Rejoice. I don't know why it's taking this long to get them, but hey, better late than never, I guess. They're actually decently customizable, probably why it's taking so long. You can color code them, you can disable them during battle or PvP. You can also select which mode in chat actually has chat bubbles. So if you only want them for, say, a shout instead of saying Alliance Raid or Party, you can do that, or vice versa. At least that's how they kind of advertised it. If you play Rothko or Vieira, congratulations, you're getting access to even more hats in this game. And if you play as a Vieira, congratulations, you can now chop your ears off. Well, not actually. Lore-wise, you're supposedly just tucking them in, but basically you can remove your ears. Nice to have it as an option. I've seen a few takes float around asking why can't Mikode do this, and that's a good question. Yeah, why can't Mikode also do this? Maybe that'll be a thing down the line, who knows? Also, I never noticed this because I never wore hair sets or hairstyles that had bangs on them, but congratulations, if you have bangs, they can now show in hoods. Okay, let's talk about the whiteboard feature, because this blew my mind on stream. It's not in 7.3, they're still working on it. They pretty much just didn't want us to think they forgot about it. And Yoshi P talked about features for the whiteboard we're discussing. Option to highlight jobs, including your own, for your own positionings. Since not everyone will be a whiteboard maker, obviously we need a feature to be able to share them. There will be many good ones, but eventually most players will agree to one that will be used. Which sounds like it makes sense, right? But when you read the slide, it says functions under consideration. Functionality to display the board where desired, including during battle. Option to highlight specified jobs, ability to set up multiple schemes for a single duty, and an option to share with others. That's like baseline functionality that this function would need to really succeed and be utilized properly. It's like, I doubt people are gonna print screen all these different things, throw them onto a second monitor if they have one, let alone memorize all these things. And like Yoshi P said, not everyone's going to be a whiteboard maker. Obviously, there does need to be a feature to allow us to share them. Because if this feature didn't allow you to do that, and you had to make them all yourself manually, no one's going to use it. I just found that more funny than anything. I imagine a lot of those features are going to not just be under consideration and just be added, they just wanted to give themselves a bit of leeway. Though I found it funny to joke about. And they'll talk more about housing in the next live letter, but they're working on a way to increase the number of objects you can place. And that kind of does it for the live letter for patch 7.3 of Final Fantasy XIV, at least part 1. A lot of interesting discussion, a lot of interesting decisions. I am personally glad to see that they're addressing player feedback in such a way, even if not every rebuttal to online sentiment was necessarily along what I would personally want to see them do. I think they talked about quite a few good changes. We'll have to see the exact functionality of the Deep Dungeon, or if it's just another Deep Dungeon, but it does kind of feel like Final Fantasy XIV The Patch. It follows that standard rubric. It follows what you expect out of a Final Fantasy XIV patch. Nothing particularly blows me away. It's just very standard. If you've been enjoying that idea from Dawn Trail, you'll probably enjoy 7.3. If it hasn't been your thing, I imagine 7.3, unless you fall in love with the deep dungeon or the story's just god tier this go around. And to be fair, I really enjoyed the story in 7.2. There's quite a bit of things that I'm looking forward to. I want to do the deep dungeon. I am now really invested in the story because 7.2 pulled me back in. I love the Hildebrand quests. I really enjoy the Alliance raid. So we'll see how 7.3 shapes up when they show us more in the second live letter for patch 7.3. With that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions overall on anything about this live letter. I would love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.